friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be going over all the books that I read in the month of April. I read a total of 5 books, which I feel like is pretty on par for my reading for this year. Normally in the past I would read 3 to 4 books a month, but this year I've just been kind of cranking them out. I have had a few rereads, so like obviously I feel like you read those books a little bit quicker because you kind of already know what to expect. But I wanted to recap all the books that I read in the month of April, so let's dive right in. The first book that I read this month in April was The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I listened to this book on audio and I really did enjoy it. The narrator was, I think, really great at narrating all the parts and the different characters, and it was a very relaxed read. I wouldn't say it gripped me or it was thrilling or exciting. It was just a fun time to follow along our main character, which her name is Lucy, and basically she's grappling with her mid-20s, unsure of how life is gonna go because right now she's very unhappy. She is like poor, can't afford her bills while all of her friends can, and she's just feeling like she's falling behind basically. So she makes this wish and she just wishes she could jump to the good part of her life out of desperation. She goes to bed, wakes up, and poof, we have jumped in our timeline and it's now like 30 years later and she's at the good part of her life. And from there she grapples with realizing maybe it's fine to have moments of being unsure of where life is going, and that's a whole part of the journey. This was like an overall a fine book. I gave it a 3 stars, and I would recommend this if you're looking kind of for like an in-between book, something that's maybe a palate cleanser or just something not too serious. Definitely check out this one. I also would recommend the audiobook. It was great. And that's like all that I really have to say. And then the next book that I read was actually an advanced reader's copy of Mistakes We Never Made by Hannah Brown. And oh boy, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I'm gonna try and condense them the best that I can. This book was just really not for me, and that's totally fine. I didn't really love the trope in this. I found our characters extremely immature, and their lack of communication skills was kind of troublesome because they're supposed to be in their late 20s and yet they act like they're in their teens slash very early 20s, like freshmen in college. So I personally did not enjoy this. I gave this a 3 stars because I loved the friend group elements of this book and I wished we got more scenes with them. We didn't really get many except for at the very beginning and then kind of at the end. So I wish there was a better way to incorporate all of those moments into the story. And then as a fan of Hannah Brown on her season of The Bachelor and Bachelorette, I loved when she was the lead. She's probably one of the most iconic leads in Bachelorette history. And finding all of those little Easter eggs throughout the story was fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Taylor Swift fan, so you know I love an Easter egg. So seeing how they incorporated them was really fun. And I feel like they did a really great job actually of laying out these little Easter eggs. They didn't feel too obvious or like stick out like a sore thumb. It felt very natural in the flow of everything, and it's basically like you would only know that these are Easter eggs if you are a fan of Bachelor Nation. So it's kind of like if you know kind of vibe. So it didn't take me out of the story anytime I came across one, and if anything it helped added to some character arcs and everything like that. But overall, this was a miss for me. I enjoyed some moments but not a lot, and I don't know if I will pick up the next book that Hannah Brown is putting out. I'm hoping the next book does follow one of the characters in this book because there were so many unanswered questions at the end that I'm like, okay, I guess we're like kind of gearing up for book 2, but I don't know. I haven't seen what the premise of book 2 is, so like maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, there just felt a lot of things that I didn't love or didn't work well for me. So I don't know if I would recommend this. If you are obsessed with Bachelor Nation or Hannah Brown, then I do think it is worth checking out. Maybe do the audiobook or maybe get it on Kindle just to get it a little bit cheaper. But also the covers, I do really like the cover. Like, I think it's a beautiful cover, so that also got a star. So that's how I got to the 3-star rating, all right? Like, it was enjoyable in some moments, and then there's like a few romance tropes in here that quite literally took me out that I just can't overlook. The next book that I read was All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham, and this is a thriller book. I basically needed a cleanser. I had been on a romance kick and I just needed something to like cleanse my palate, something that wasn't a happily ever after, and this did the job. Oh my god, I loved her other book, A Flicker in the Dark. Ate it up. I thought it was so good. It was one of my favorite books that I read that year. So I had high hopes going into this one, and I gave it a 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Short chapters, very quick, easy to immerse yourself into this world and what's happening. And the only reason why I didn't give it a 5 star, I gave it a 4 star, is because I kind of guessed half of the twist. So I just kind of saw part of it coming, but then the other half I was like, so did not see coming, and I thought it went really well. And I just loved everything about this book. Like, if you are looking for just a quick palate cleanser and you need a thriller book, highly recommend. It's, I think, a good book to read during summer. It felt very summer vibes as it's based in Savannah, Georgia, and it's like hot, humidity down there. So it's like a good book to lead into summer, I think. Not necessarily saying that it's like beachy summer vibes, but in that sense, like nighttime summer vibes, I would recommend. So I'm gonna keep it very brief on this review because I went in basically not knowing anything, and I think that's the best way to go into a thriller. So all I'm gonna say is if you enjoyed Flicker in the Dark, then you will probably enjoy this one, and you need to check it out. The next book that I read was The Summer of Broken Rules, and this was actually a reread for me, and I ate it up. I gave it a 4-star rating. It felt very YA, but not in a bad way. Like, our characters truly felt like 18-year-olds making silly, dumb decisions, and yet it tracks with their age. It didn't feel too younger YA, so I loved it. The summer vibes in this book, holy cow, they're immaculate. It is set on the East Coast, basically Martha's Vineyard, and it's this family estate, and they get to have a fun game 1 week in the summer to play the game Assassin, and talk about how fun. And the family has a huge dynamic because it's a very large family, and so seeing all the cousins and the aunts and uncles interact, as well as the local kids also come and hang out because they've been there for so long, like each summer. They've made friends along the way, so you get to see them interact, and overall it's just, I'm obsessed. I wish I could dive into this world like in real life because it just sounds so fun. And I did forget upon my reread that there is a huge topic of grief discussed throughout this book because our main character has lost a sibling, and she's grappling with like doing things without her sisters being there anymore. So I thought it was handled really well. Actually, I didn't think it was like blown off or like, oh, she's moving on so quickly. And if anything, it really showed a struggle of like enjoying moments, but then feeling guilty, but then realizing and accepting her sister would want her to be happy. So overall, I really enjoyed it, and I love this whole book. I highly recommend if you are looking for a book that is a summer romance, like very similar to The Summer I Turned Pretty vibes, like in the TV show. I feel like that show really just encapsulates like summer in a show, and I feel like this also does it in a book form. So if you haven't read it, highly recommend. It's very just relaxing, and it's not serious at the end of the day. It is a fun romance to read and a great way to kick off the summer season. All right, and the last book that I read was People We Meet on Vacation, and this was also another reread for me, and the reason why I read this was for my book club, and shockingly, my rating did not hold up. I originally gave this a 5 stars. Which is shocking because this is not a 5-star Emily Henry book for me. And I think the reason why I gave it 5 stars was because at the time I only had Beach Read to compare it to. So like, yes, I thought it was great, 5 stars. Looking back, I do think it's a 4-star read. But even after freshly off this book, I actually think it's a 3.75 star read. So I rounded up on Goodreads to a 4-star, and I just don't think this book is for me. I'm realizing that maybe the friends to lovers trope is not my favorite trope in the romance genre, so I think that's why this book just kind of falls a little flat. And I also found Poppy just so annoying. Like, I was trying to annotate my book because I wanted to do it this go around, and I realized that I resonated way more with Alex, which I think is fine, but I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, I don't remember this on my first read. So that was an interesting, like, thing to realize as I was reading the story. I did still love the dual timeline. I thought Emily Henry did a chef's kiss perfection job doing that. It was great, and seeing their arc of their friendship and then to the lovers was also nice to see. But then the conflict just felt like a little silly of like assuming things and not actually being adults and communicating. So again, miscommunication trope I'm realizing I don't love. So I didn't love it in this book, and that really knocked it down for me. I did enjoy, though, the grand sweeping gesture of Poppy at the end professing her love to Alex. I did love it. Like, I do think that would be translated well to TV. Like, I think that would be really cute. But overall, this book was just okay. I think there are better Emily Henry books for me personally out there, so I moved it at the bottom of my list, shockingly. So my updated ranking goes Beach Read, Happy Place, Book Lovers, and People We Meet on Vacation. Spoiler alert, I'm going to read Funny Story next month, so in the month of May, so we'll see where that stacks in the rating. But yeah, very shocking to read. I think I need to read Book Lovers soon because I'm just shocked that my rating went down. I've never had that happen in a reread before, but it's still good. It was still enjoyable. Like, it's still one of the better romances out there. It's just not for me. All right, guys, that's all the books that I read in the month of April. Overall, I would say it was a successful reading month. I read heavily in the romance genre, and I think for this next month, there will still be romance, but I do think I want to explore some more genres again, sprinkle in a little bit more thrillers, maybe dabble in a fantasy if I'm feeling it, but that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what books you read in the month of April, or if you've read any of the books that I read and what your thoughts on them are. And if you have any book recommendations, please send them my way. I feel like I look at my Goodreads TBR list and I'm not feeling that inspired. So definitely send them my way if you have anything that you've been loving. I'm always on the hunt, especially given that I haven't had that many 5-star reads this year. So always looking for a recommendation. But that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.